Alright, my name is Flynn, and this is my tutorial on how to do Walrus Skip. Walrus Skip is a new trick. It is controversial to some, and it's really interesting and neat to others. Essentially what this allows us to do is skip the remaining bits of the trading sequence that we do. Getting the little honeycomb scene with Drenn and getting the whatever the crocodile gives you. Fuck, what is it again? Pineapple? Something like that. And it also allows you to skip the entire sequence of going to get Marin, talking to her on the beach, and having to run around. So this is a significant trick. And how we do this is by, on this screen, we overload the game's memory by having a shit ton of sprites on the screen. We get 3 drops from digging, and then we just place a bunch of bombs and arrows and powder all over the screen. And then when we transition screens, the game just doesn't load the walrus in, so we get to bypass him. So it is a really, really neat trick. It's a little difficult in that it's RNG heavy. Thankfully you can buffer a lot of the inputs that make so it becomes pretty reliable after you go through kind of like the RNG phase of this. So how you do this trick is a 5-step process that I've outlined to the left. Before we get into that, I'll show you kind of how it looks when you do it. I will be skipping the first part where you dig 3 drops because that's really RNG heavy and I don't really want to sit here just digging and hoping that it works for a tutorial. So I have a save state loaded where I have 3 drops dug up, 2 hearts and 1 rupee. So that'll be sufficient. So I'll take over at step number 2, placing the bomb and do everything. And the walrus is gone. Now if we bring up the screen again, he is back, but it is sufficient in that we can pass him. So I'll just do it again real quick. And that's basically how you do it. I find it really reliable when you do it buffered. Now, it should be said that I don't claim that this is a good strat on how to do Walrus Skip. This is just the way I like to do it. It's based off of how Drenn used to do his, so huge shoutouts to Drenn. I think that this is one of the better methods of doing it out right now. Oh, with that being said, there's not exactly a whole lot of methods for doing this, but I like this one. This one feels reliable to me. So let's go over the steps now. The first step is dig 3 drops. Shuffle. Now basically when you do your digging, you're going to dig up, for the most part, these same 11 squares. These are going to be kind of your main digging spots. Now digging efficiently is kind of a big issue because this can take a while, so you want to be able to dig as fast as possible. So the way I like to do it is you dig that left square, and then for the remaining 10 squares of this column, you kind of want to do like this backwards moonwalk dig, where you're just digging and alternating holding down left and down right, like this. And as you can see in my inputs, it's not super difficult to do, but it does take some practice, and it is actually worth practicing because you will be doing a lot of digging. Because sometimes you can run like really bad and have to dig for a while. This is a very risky trick. Sometimes you miss. But that would be an example of getting the 3 drops that I need. For the rest of this tutorial, I'm just going to be skipping this phase because I just want to get to kind of like the meat of the trick and show you guys how to do it. So I have this save state where, as before, I have these 3 drops up. So now we'll get on to step number 2. It doesn't really matter if these despawn right now. It will later when I actually do the trick. But basically, you need to place this bomb in a position where when it blows up, it gets all of these bushes. So the best way to do this is to equip your bomb, face up against this plant, drop just like that. Because it's very important that you get all those bushes. So after you place the bomb, you're going to want to jump into the transition and equip your bow. Important thing to note about jumping into the transition is no matter how close you are when you jump, it won't actually transition screens, but it will place you at the maximum distance possible, so that when you are ready to cross the screen, you just need to tap. So it just makes it really, really fast and really, really reliable. So you place your bomb, jump into the screen transition, equip your bow, and you're going to want to fire one delayed arrow. And what that means is you're not going to fire the arrow right when you hit the ground. You're going to kind of stagger your shot by like half a second. Ideally, you'd want to fire the bow right as the bomb explodes or right before the bomb's going to explode. So kind of just like that. If you were watching the bomb, you could see that the animation was starting. So that's a pretty good time for it. Just like that. So that's step number 3. Step number 4 is we have our menu up, and we're going to want to have powder and bomb. And our first cue is listening to the bomb explode. So as soon as we exit the menu, we're going to map buffer until we hear the bomb exploding. On average, this is going to take between 1 to 3 map buffers. Usually 2 is good. It depends on how accurate you were when you shot your arrow. Okay, so we got it in 1, so I shot the arrow probably a little later than I should have, but that's okay. So when you hear the bomb explode, coming out of the map menu, you're going to want to hold down A and B so that you drop 1 powder and 1 bomb. Important thing to note is sometimes the game's kind of finicky and you won't drop a powder or a bomb when you think you do, so it's really important to watch the number in your inventory to make sure that you have both a powder and a bomb out there. And then as soon as you drop the powder and the bomb, you're going to want to bring up the menu, so it looks a little bit like this. So when I exit the map menu, or the map screen, I look down, I had 14 powder and 1 bomb. And then when I brought the menu up, I have 13 and 0 bombs, so I know that I got the bomb and the powder out. So that's step number 4. Step number 5 involves powder and arrow. And what you're going to do is you're going to map buffer until the animation of the bomb changes, or the bomb explosion changes. Right now, it's this red and black spiky looking animation, and you're going to want to map buffer until it becomes like these small circle looking things. And usually this takes on average it's about 2 map buffers, maybe 3. So I'm going to do that now. So it's red and black right there, and it just turned to circles. So out of this map, I'm going to hold down A and B to shoot 1 powder and 1 arrow, and I'm going to hold right to screen transition. And that's it. The walrus is despawned. I like this method. It seems reliable to me. I have a fairly decent consistency rate doing it. It's a little weird to get used to. There's the bomb sound. Inventory is correct. There's the circles. And that's it. No more walrus. And that's how you do buffered walrus skip. Now, since this is buffered walrus skip, that implies that there is a bufferless method. So it is kind of worth mentioning that, specifically its application to Link's Awakening. I'll bring that game up right now. Since you can't actually properly buffer in that game, you have to do bufferless. I think this is the save state. Okay, so in this save state, I already have my 3 drops, as you can see, and the bomb is about to go off in the appropriate position. So I just have to shoot a bunch of bombs, arrows, powder, like I would in DX. It's a little different in this game. You don't actually do like 1 powder, 1 arrow, 1 powder, 1 bomb. you actually do 3 powders and 2 arrows all at once. And you just have to time it really specifically and do the inputs like really spot on. It's a lot more difficult. I'll try to do it a couple times, but I'm not very good at it. It's been a while. I keep missing a powder. I need to go to 13 powder and 10 arrows rather. There it is. So yeah, you can understand how that's it's a lot more difficult. I'd like to think that DX will progress to the point where we have a really reliable buffered method, and then people start doing bufferless, kind of like people did with Skip, and that would be really exciting to see. I think that would be really cool. Although it's worth noting that buffered Walrus Skip doesn't take as long as like buffered Skip does, because buffered Skip has like 10 buffers and it just takes a while. But yeah, that's how you do Walrus Skip. Go out and give it a try. It's not as scary or as intimidating as it looks, I promise. It's just you need to know what to look for and what inputs to do, and then it's pretty easy. Then you just gotta get really lucky when you dig. Alright, take it easy guys.